You were in the right place at the right time, stretching from the distant spaceports of Batu, Tatooine, and the Rishi Maze, all the way to the bright center of the galaxy at Imperial Center, slamming into your hollow projector like a supercharged nanoparticle of coaxium. This is the Star Wars Unfiltered podcast. I'm John, he's Jason, and we are here to bring you your needed dose of Star Wars film, TV, book, comic, gaming, and collecting news. The date is August 2nd, 2021. We got some Star Wars book news coming your way. We got an Indiana Jones 5 update. We have a brief update on Alan Dean Foster and Disney royalties, and we're also going to cover the latest Bad Batch episode with a review. Jason, how was your weekend?
Crappy.
Man.
Had to spend Saturday night at the emergency room at the Children's Hospital in Orange County.
Oh.
Daughter has RSV.
Well, at least it ain't COVID.
Yeah, you're telling me. High fever, high heart rate. That's what the heart rate not coming down and the fever not coming down with meds is what took us in there. And
yeah, for sure.
It's interesting. We kind of had to ask to get COVID tested. Like they weren't gonna. Not that I feel like they should just do that stuff in general. But
but you would think it would be like nearly automatic at right now.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I thought it would be. Yeah, I thought it would be automatic because in theory, children are a vector for older people to get sick, and kids are in school and stuff.
Yeah.
And I would think that, we did want to know one way or the other because it's like, we don't want to send her to school if she's got, COVID. So anyway, it wasn't that they did a kind of a small battery of tests with a couple of swabs, and it's just RSV. So just typical.
Well, that's good.
Typical kid shit. So
yeah, little petri dishes is what they are.
Yep, totally. Little infectors.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like an interesting weekend, if nothing else. What did I do? Not much. I watched the second Austin Powers movie, which I hadn't seen, I don't think, since the theater, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Like it's funny, the first movie, I saw each one in the trilogy in the theater, but the first movie I watched and rewatched so many times on VHS, and I think I watch that one every 5 years nowadays. But for whatever reason, I just never saw the sequels again. I don't recall. Maybe one time, but if I did, it was still 20 years ago or something. So I was surprised how well it holds up, and it's from a different era now. When I see comedies like that, it's very 90s. It's silly. It's cartoonish. But in some ways, I kind of prefer that. Like, I don't know. I feel like comedies these days, they just automatically go for the really crude and gross and sexual kind of humor, which can be funny, but I don't know. I like slapsticky stuff more from the 80s and 90s. So
was it dated? I haven't watched any of those movies in a while.
No, yes, it had very 90s things and references, like the whole they had their command center is at Starbucks, for a while in Seattle. So yeah, it's like there's
of course,
90s stuff.
It deals with, the first one especially, but the other ones they deal essentially with time travel in a way,
right,
or people out of time.
Yeah.
So, but I was wondering if the jokes and stuff and the references would hold up.
They do, actually. I think the only thing that might be slightly viewed differently is the whole free love thing. Like the whole Me Too generation. I don't know if they'd be down for Austin Powers and is like.
I think that everything going on with that now kind of. I think just about everything. I think anything, if you go 10 years or more back, is just someone can find something to be offended by. These days, like you can't get around it now.
Yeah, and right now Disney is offending me by using Earth references in their Star Wars books. So let's talk about Star Wars Ronin, the upcoming book coming in October, which ties into Star Wars Visions, the Japanese anime-inspired animated thing on Disney Plus. So they got this book Ronin, which is again inspired by real-world mythology with samurai and everything.
Not the movie with Robert De Niro and
Robert De Niro
car chase and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
which I have not seen that since the theater, but I did see that back in the day.
Same. Yeah.
And that was a great movie. I think that might have been where I first heard the term Ronin, actually, was that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, on the surface, this seems like a cool idea for a story, but so I don't know, but it's tying in, I feel like, to too many very specific Earth-based things. Like on the mock-up cover of the book, I don't know if it's the final cover or if it's the temporary one. There's literally what looks like Japanese kanji on it,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, this is a story that essentially deals with Jedi and Sith and things of that sort in ancient times, but I don't know.
Well, it's described as an alternate history story,
Yeah,
presumably alternate history in Star Wars
I
that
hope so.
is borrowing from samurai samurai stuff from Japanese culture and their relationship with the different feudal lords
Yeah,
because they describe like the Jedi having different clans and all that stuff, kind of like
right.
the what is it, the I don't remember what that period was called in Japan, but with all the daimyos and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so
I
I'm
just say
guessing,
feudal Japan.
yeah, yeah. So I guess they can be really free and liberal with references and stuff because it's sort of a one-off, just
I guess if it is an alternate
not
history,
canon or anything. So
yeah, if it is an alternate history, but maybe still canon, like both, like we're talking about almost like infinities here, like the old Legends branding of stories that are outside of the normal continuity. I guess that could be okay. I mean, but then again, my whole point is, what's the point of that? Isn't the point of everything being canon to make it literally all count and matter?
well, honestly, until you mentioned it, I had forgotten about Infinities as being the banner for non-canon
Right.
stories in the old EU, which
It wasn't used a lot, but there was like Infinities A New Hope, Infinities
they
Empire
should bring
Strikes
that
Back.
back. That's what they should do for this. Is they should bring back a banner or
Yeah.
a an umbrella term for anything that falls outside of canon. Because we talked about this uh, off the podcast earlier
Yeah.
today, but it's Disney has they're the ones that you know they're the ones that wiped the slate clean, so,
Mm-hmm.
and decanonized everything so that they could start fresh and stuff, and they continually paint themselves in these corners, and then on top of that they release stories like this that presumably aren't canon, but they're not pointing out that it's not canon, as if to say like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, like canon's whatever you make of it, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, look, I get it, canon's what you make of it, canon's,
Yeah.
everybody's got their head canon stuff, but it's like you're the guys that made a big deal about canon and stuff. So
Exactly. Yeah,
so
it's them backpedaling again as they do.
yeah, so I don't know, it sounds cool. The cover's kind of neat.
It's very much in that old Japanese art style, like on the scrolls and the
Yes.
that they used to do.
Yeah. So I don't know when or if I'll get around to reading it.
Yeah, that'd be and especially if it isn't part of the main continuity, it might just be a very bottom of the list thing for me.
Maybe I'll read it and then just out of spite, I'll fit it into my head canon for old EU and elevate it
Yeah.
to true canon,
Right,
not
right.
D canon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so that's coming out in October and presumably around the same time as Disney Visions on Disney Plus, or sorry, Star Wars Visions and plus Visions. Yeah, but we got an update also here on Indiana Jones 5, Indiana Jones and the Comfortable Bed. What's going on with that lately, Jason?
uh, well, most recently, I guess the biggest news would be Antonio Banderas has joined the cast,
That's
which
right.
sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
It occurred to me that he played Zorro in I think those two movies from like 20
Yep.
years ago, those reboots.
The
And
second one didn't do very well, but
yeah,
yeah, the
I had totally forgotten that they even made a second one.
I did too, and I was reading about it recently. But the first one did pretty decently well, despite me not seeing it.
So it occurred to me that he played Zorro, and I think it would be really cool if they had some sort of reference to that, right? Like,
Yeah.
because Indy has roots in Zorro. It stems from those old
The
serials
series.
and the serials and old action adventure from
Yep.
old Hollywood.
Yeah, 20s
Um,
and 30s, stuff like that.
yeah, so I think it'd be cool if they had some sort of Zorro reference.
Yeah, why not? And honestly, I'm trying to think of like, did Zorro, those stories, did they take place in the late 1800s or was it actually the early 1900s? Because I was thinking,
I don't know. I'm
you know,
not a big Zorro fan.
yeah, because I was thinking like Indiana Jones was born, I think, in the late 1800s, somewhere in there, like on the timeline.
Hmm.
And I'd have to go back and check my timeline notes for Indy, which I'm not. I'm a casual on that too. But like when they did Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, every episode have had him meeting some famous historical figure,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't be surprised if during his younger years he met Zorro on one episode or something. I mean,
Well, on those episodes, was he meeting like real historical people, or sometimes were they
yes,
literary? Okay, so
yeah, it was real. It was like famous scientists and
I see. Okay, because
other
as
adventurers
far
and
as I know, Zorro's not a real person. So
yeah, I that's what I figured too. But I wonder if it's something like on that show because I didn't watch enough of Young Indy. I wonder if they blurred the lines with some things like that too. So
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I'm not. Uh, I mentioned it before. Watching all the X Files, binging all the seasons of X Files. I am not super excited to go revisit any sort of long form '90s television,
Yeah, it's tough.
even if
Each
it's Indiana
season.
Jones.
Yeah, and that was the thing about Young Indy. I tried watching the first episode when it came on TV. I even remember my dad, he saw the TV guide. He's like, "Oh, we got this new Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. You want to check it out?" And then like I think I did tune in and I watched probably 15 or 20 minutes, but I remember it being relatively educational,
Hmm.
which cuz like I was like 12 when it came out.
Right.
And so I was looking for heavy action or sci-fi or like something really different. And I just remember they were more dramatic in tone and they were still limited by a television budget, so they couldn't do crazy chases like the indie movies. I mean, they had some things here and there when I see clips.
Look, if I'm
But
watching
yeah.
Indiana Jones, I need something. I need heads exploding, people melting,
Yeah,
hearts getting
yeah,
ripped out of chests, something,
exactly.
you know.
Exactly. And the fact that there was no Harrison until like season 3 or 4 when they did a bookend with him at the beginning and the end. You know, to me, like that's the essential core of Indiana Jones. You need Harrison involved in
Hmm.
some shape or form. So
Yeah.
anyway, and then there was so for Indy 5, there was also this Harrison got hurt rehearsing a fight scene. Not
JJ was
even
on set and dropped another door on him or something.
right, right. He is not having the greatest luck on filming some of these action movies in recent years. And I guess they rearranged the shooting around him, so they're still filming other scenes.
Yeah, it sounds like they're still filming. I mean, they said that that's what they're gonna do. He got hurt rehearsing a fight scene, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
he really needs to fly planes and do his own stunts at 70 whatever. Uh,
yeah.
and then so that was in June, and then also there was the Mangold meltdown
Oh, that's
on
right. That was
Twitter.
Twitter, right?
Yeah, somebody posted some skepticism that the movie was going to be good, and Mangold took that to heart and really laid into him on Twitter. And I don't know. This is another instance of just stay off Twitter. It's like
Why?
it's like Shatner
Yeah,
on SNL. Get a life. Like
yeah.
stay off
Seriously,
Twitter.
yeah. Like in this day and age, you can just expect anyone to criticize anything before it comes out, even if it's probably going to be good. It's so expected because that's the way people are. They want to get reactions and whatever, or it's valid one way or the other. But
Yeah,
but either way, if you're the creator and you're involved in the main process of it, don't even go on social media. Don't interact with these people.
yeah.
You're
Because
just tainting yourself.
yeah, you don't want that to affect decisions that you're making,
No,
right?
yeah,
Like, and yeah, the other person was you don't need to, have a far gone conclusion that the movie's going to be shit based on a couple of things on paper. It was
Right.
Matthew Caddish, which I guess he has
Okay.
a podcast, and
Okay.
I think that's who he just listed a list of things that didn't look good on paper. Spielberg not directing, Kennedy is producing, Ford being
We've
old.
we've talked about this in our mini gameplay videos, talking about Indy 5 every so often.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get it. On paper, there's a lot of it that doesn't look good.
Well, what's interesting too, one of the things he listed was wrong. He said that it's written by John Kasdan, but he exited the project like a while ago. So it's not even,
Yeah.
it's like if you're gonna criticize something or shit on something before it even comes out, at least get your facts straight. I mean, I'm not super hopeful, or I'm not super confident, I should say, that
Yeah.
it's going to be great. But I'm also, I don't know, like it has every chance of being good. Fresh blood with Mangold and different
Yeah.
stuff. I mean,
I think you and I, we just have visions of CG monkeys in our heads still after 13 years or
yeah,
so.
and that was that was Spielberg and Lucas and
And
stuff. I mean,
Lucas. So
hey, if anyone can, shit out a turd, Spielberg could do it. He could definitely do it. Not everything he makes is gold.
yeah, and honestly, I haven't been blown away. I mean, I haven't seen every recent Spielberg movie. I think the last new one I saw besides Crystal Skull was like Munich from 2 years earlier. So I've not seen anything from the 2010s and onward. But I think the last like great Spielberg movie I can remember might have been AI, artificial
Mm-hmm.
intelligence, which I just rewatched recently, and I loved that movie then, and I still love it now. It's underrated, I think, as far as Spielberg's stuff.
Yeah.
But no, Spielberg's long been past his prime. I think people should just expect a competent movie these days, even if he's just producing or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, these guys aren't young and hungry anymore. They're not in their 20s and 30s and or even 40s. They're long past their. It's not to say that they can't crank out something that still resonates, but it's time to look for new fresh blood. So maybe these other guys working on it, like James Mangold or whatever, maybe it will inject a new kind of energy to it. I think it's fair to just judge it when we see it. There's no need to shit on something before it happens. I mean, yeah, be hesitant. You could still be like, I'm unsure, but like, don't judge it completely.
Yeah. I mean, not that anyone, as far as I know, like has declared that they won't see the movie or anything, but I do, in that same vein, I think it's funny when people will say they're going to boycott something like Star Wars is like, I'm not, after The Last Jedi or something, I won't watch another Star Wars movie. Now, I didn't like The Last Jedi, but I still went and saw Solo and The Rise of Skywalker,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe not because of The Last Jedi, but just the content of each movie individually in anything, it really just depend, or that sort of affects how many times I'll watch it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm still gonna see stuff like He-Man, right? There was a bunch of people shitting on He-Man, and if I really liked it and it was really fun to watch, I'd watch it multiple times probably. But it wasn't, so I watched it once and that was enough.
yeah, yeah,
So people, I don't know, they need to calm down. They need to stay off social media. Don't let other people's opinions and stuff affect how you feel
yeah.
about something, how you feel and how you work on it. I think Mangold hopefully has, stayed off of Twitter and just
Jeez,
work
no
on the
kidding.
movie. But people also
Nope.
need to calm down. I mean, they people want clicks. They want to
Yeah,
stir the pot, and I don't know. There's
yeah.
too there's too much connection between creatives and the the plebeian consumers that
Yeah, that's true. There's good and bad things about being directly connected to your audience through the internet. And
yes.
I think for music and bands, it's generally a good thing. The creative process, fans get to see that stuff. But I think in other industries, it's mostly a bad thing. I'd rather just see the movie when it's out and not have this noise surrounding things, you know?
Yeah, well, that stuff can leave a bad taste in your mouth too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like, and it can work the other way too. Like sitting down to watch The Last Jedi, Jess said, because she saw it right before us earlier in the day or whatever, because she's, other time zone. Better than Empire, she said.
That's true.
That built a lot of expectation.
I have a screenshot of that moment also.
It's
for posterity's sake.
Forever. That's a forever comment. That doesn't go away.
We need to make that into a t-shirt for sure.
But and then so I mean, Mangold had a meltdown, but that was like last month. That's not even like news. That's like totally gone. And then I guess they're gonna de-age Indy. That was also in those production shots from June. Which is fine. That makes sense. Especially if they're gonna do like flashback stuff.
Because otherwise he's gonna be fighting hippies or something in the 60s or early 70s.
Flower power.
He's gonna try and get in his car, and he has no gas, so he has to get in line at the gas station.
That's way too specific. One thing I did notice about the those production photos is like they were filming at was it Brandberg Castle, I think. And we talked about this at the time, but I don't think it was on a podcast or anything, or even on one of our gameplay videos. But I have a theory that I want to declare with Indy 5 is that because they're not going to have the Paramount logo.
Yeah.
Because Paramount's not distributing the film, so they're not going to be able to transition from the Paramount Mountain logo to whatever,
you're right.
Mole Hill or Groundhog Hill or some mountain in the movie. I hope that they have a transition from the Disney castle to the in-movie castle. Hopefully. It
just sounds like it would be a poetic thing.
It would be a nod, right? Like you can't do Paramount, so let's do this. It's a sort of a, I don't know, like not an Easter egg, but just kind of like a little love note to the fans.
Yeah.
Like, we can't do this, but we can do this type
yes.
It's kind of like, I think that Disney potentially could have used the Fox fanfare for The Rise of Skywalker, but they didn't, which was unfortunate. And I don't know if there was a hang up about it or if JJ just didn't want to do it or whatever. I mean, he didn't put Bad Robot at the beginning of the movie, I don't think, right?
No, it was at the end.
Yeah, so there is some sort of like, there is some thought going into how these movies open, for consistency. So I was hoping that they would do the Fox fanfare. I don't recall. I seem to recall that I seem to remember that the deal had gone through at least enough to where they could use the fanfare, but I'm not sure now.
I think the deal had gone through. It was like September or October of that year.
Yeah.
So it was like 3 or 4 months before the movie, presumably before the prints were even finalized and all that.
Right.
But
well, hell, there's reports that they're shooting the movie like right before they did the prints.
I wouldn't be surprised. But I think it was one of those things where they weren't allowed to use elements of 20th Century Fox until it rolled over into 2020. I think I think it was something like that where they could talk about the deal, but they couldn't act on anything until the fiscal year rolled over. Something like that.
Yeah, that might be true. I know that Underwater was the last movie to use the Fox logo, like Fox, 20th Century Fox. After that, it's 20th Century Studios or whatever.
Right.
And that was, I think, in January of 2020. So maybe there was some hang up with that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my hopeful theory.
Yeah.
Is that they'll use a transition from the Disney castle, which, I don't know, maybe they would use that logo. I don't even know if they'd use that logo for the movie, but
I don't know
into the in movie Brandberg Castle. So
yeah, I like that idea. And I don't know what Disney's using these days for a live action movie logo if they have a castle or whatever, because I haven't seen a live action Disney movie like non Star Wars. I don't think in long time. So
like a Disney, because I mean I'm used to
yeah,
Marvel, and Marvel has their own thing.
yeah,
So
yeah. I would have to like literally look at a list of all my movies I've seen and all my notes. I might have the last one I've seen might have even been back in the 90s. So
well, I
because
mean,
yeah,
they could do whatever they want. It's their stuff.
sure,
You
yeah,
know, I mean, even if it's Lucasfilm, they could tack that castle on
yeah,
and do
yeah.
whatever they want. So
So watch this space, everybody. We'll see what happens with Indiana Jones in the comfortable bed.
we'll see if it actually comes out.
Exactly.
And we have an update for Alan Dean Foster's royalties.
Oh, finally.
Yeah, well, every month I'd go on to his website because he doesn't have smartly, he doesn't have Twitter and social media. He just posts update to his own website, alandeanfoster.com, and he usually does it on the first of the month. So I've been checking that, and ever since May 1st, he said the issues are almost resolved, or they were resolved at the time. We'll have an update, for the public very shortly. Of course, that was what 3 months ago now. Yeah, so I think 3 months ago. I've been going on there every first of the month, nothing. So I just did a search, and then apparently May 11th there was some report that they resolved it. I guess they had that task force, right? There was a task force that got put together, a quote unquote task force that was going to help a lot of different authors from different.
Yes, it was going around.
Yeah, from different that were getting stiffed on their royalties through different Disney acquisitions of Fox and I think Boom something, and then of course Lucasfilm, and so Alan Dean Foster's getting his money, hopefully all of it. James Caan, I guess, was getting stiffed. He wrote the novelization of Return of the Jedi, and Donald Glut, who wrote Empire novelization.
That's right.
He was getting stiffed too, and so all three of them are getting their checks, presumably.
I hope we can find more details of this, but I'm sure there will be NDAs involved, or they'll be limited in how they can say exactly what happened.
That might be why Alan Dean Foster didn't post about it.
He should at least say it's been resolved. He doesn't need to go into why.
I would think that Disney would want that news to come out, right? Like they would want everybody to know that they're not jacking these authors around anymore. But I don't know. Things get weird. Hopefully everybody's getting at least something close to what they should be getting.
Yes.
I don't know if there was like renegotiation crap that's
Yeah.
But and then of course I should have looked up. I didn't, but I don't know what the status is on James Caan's NFT
NFTs.
The pages from his manuscript for the novelization.
Last I heard and it was that he was still looking for basically buyers and stuff, because I mean they're not cheap. That's the thing. So
well, yeah. They're not cheap, and it's a brand new thing. Like you still got to sell people on the idea of buying something digitally.
Yeah, I know that NFTs there's a lot of controversy over them because as I've seen other artists and writers and musicians mention them, that they have them for sale. The plethora of fan comments is like, "Oh, they're a scam. Don't do it." There's all this like controversy surrounding them, and and I think it has to do with to keep a digital resource alive. It's basically using computer power. So in other words, it's a collectible that's out there on computers and the internet and whatever. And so the controversy is that you're using energy to prop this thing up on your computer, which I don't know the particulars of that. If someone could actually calculate that stuff,
that's just to prove your ownership of it, because it's like any of these things, you can have a screenshot of it. If it's digital art, it's like, well, you got a copy of it. I mean, it's just it's a brand new thing, and people got to get used to the idea of it. Personally, I wouldn't buy anything like that. If I own something, I want to physically own it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think NFTs are going to go anywhere.
I don't think so
I don't think
either.
They're going to take off. I know people. There's some things have sold for a lot and stuff, but fools are soon parted with their money.
Yeah, and it's also really connected to the whole Bitcoin thing and the blockchain stuff. It's all interconnected with that, and it almost seems like a way to boost the quality of that whole thing. So I don't know.
Well, it's almost the cart before the horse, right? Because it's not that. I mean, to an extent, Bitcoin is filling a void that perhaps needed to be filled of having some a digital currency that's not centralized, and hard to tie someone to the transaction like an individual and their real identity. But at the same time, it's almost like NFTs are sort of not there because they needed to exist. They're just there to justify the existence of blockchain technology,
right?
And Bitcoin has a problem with, and other cryptocurrencies have a problem with energy use and what they're doing to the environment that people don't seem to consider.
Right.
The amount of energy it takes to keep these things going and to manage to run all these transactions. Those are weirdos in basements and back in China using tons of computer hardware and eating up tons of power to keep this stuff going. So.
If they had just called Bitcoin's new yen, like from Shadowrun, I might give them a more credit, or even credits. Call them cred sticks.
Yeah.
Like from Star Wars. Who knows? Get a digital cred stick. You just slot into a machine. I mean, it's just like our phone anyway. So I don't know. It's just funny.
Anyway, so
cyberpunk dystopia.
Alan, James, and Donald are getting money from Disney. Hopefully, they don't have to keep pushing NFTs.
Yeah. Yeah, good times. Okay, break. Okay. I'm gonna go pee, use the bathroom.
All right, let me pause. All right, recording. That was at 35:50.
All right. Yeah, I figured that was a stretch on the news items.
Okay, you can introduce the Bad Batch, I guess.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the latest Bad Batch episode, episode 14, War Mantle. Right out of the gate, this one I felt was action-packed. It furthered the story, the core story. There was references to past series, past episodes. It was great action, chases. I don't know. This was one of my favorite Bad Batch episodes since the middle of the season, or even since the beginning of the season. It was great. What do you think?
I liked it too. I'm really intrigued by the transition from clones to stormtroopers, and dealt with that.
Front and center.
And TK, the TK.
Troopers. Yeah,
nice reference.
Yeah, I don't think they had ever been referred to in that way. Like, oh, these are TK troopers. Right. It was always just a terminology for someone's call sign or whatever. And it's funny that maybe that's what these early stormtroopers are called. I guess they're just called TK troopers. So in a nutshell, the basic plot of this is that Rex contacts the Bad Batch crew to help out and rescue an old comrade, who it turns out is Gregor, who we first... Now, how far are you in Clone Wars? Because I know you're still working on it.
I have not budged from halfway through the
series. So about season 3 or so.
Yeah.
I think it was in season 5. There's some... I won't say exactly what, but there's something with Gregor in that. And we last saw him in a couple episodes from season 5 from 2013, And then, of course, he was in Rebels as part of Rex's crew that he was living with alongside, I think it was Wolf was the other one.
Yes.
And Gregor, of course, always had that maniacal laugh. He was like slightly crazed sounding. Like there was something kind of off. And
his voice breaks like the teenager from The Simpsons.
Exactly.
Oh, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, not that bad, but
it's like that.
Funny.
It's very similar. And so because I saw season 2 of Rebels before I saw Clone Wars. I saw it in weird, out of order kind of thing, kind of like how you are now, where it was like, once I saw that Clone Wars thing, I was like, oh, that's Gregor and da-da-da. So now we're, just like before, we're getting that bridge where Bad Batch is bridging the two series, and Gregor is the one who's rescued from this base where there appears to be, like we said, these early stormtroopers, Project War Mantle. So it's very interesting that they are now explaining explicitly how they transitioned from clones to recruits of normal, everyday people. And I like that the stormtrooper designs are obviously heavily influenced by Ralph McQuarrie's concept art for the original stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Some of that art, which goes back to like 1974 or 75, like when initially stormtroopers were going to have lightsabers, like that was going to be their main weapon, and the headgear is very much like that, but it's still hinting at how they're going to be during A New Hope and stuff. So
I well, that speaking of New Hope, they use the stormtrooper theme,
yes,
for lack of a better term.
The early Empire theme.
Yeah,
that's used throughout A New Hope, but specifically when there's stormtroopers on screen, like when they when the guys bring out the sensor thing to take on the Falcon. That's a good moment in that movie where that theme is front and center.
TK421.
That's right. And when I heard that theme on Bad Batch, I was like, oh, they used it. Kevin Kiner, he used it. It was just so cool. And it did get used a little bit in Rogue One, like when Darth Vader first shows up. It starts out as that theme, and it blends into the Imperial March as he comes out to meet with Krennic in his castle. But it's just great to see these old John Williams like themes, like the underused ones, the ones that aren't like super well known.
Well, especially when it is kind of an odd transition as far as in A New Hope, there wasn't the Imperial March, there wasn't Darth Vader's theme yet, and so it's kind of, A New Hope's always been weird in that it's lacking that, right?
So it's inconsistent with the rest of the trilogy in that way.
Yeah, and then the rest of the trilogy doesn't use the stormtrooper theme, right? They kind of just replace that with the Imperial March.
And I kind of feel like in some ways the prequel trilogy had a similar problem where the second movie, Attack of the Clones, uses the Across the Stars love theme. Mm-hmm. There was no hint of that in The Phantom Menace, obviously, with Anakin being younger and all. But then, like, I don't think Across the Stars was used in any form during Revenge of the Sith at all. So sometimes John Williams, he pulls out a theme for just like one movie or a couple, but then he doesn't always, bring it back, or the recapitulation, like, I don't know. It's weird. He kind of cherry picks the ones he likes, but then he ignores his other singular themes.
Well, and it's, that's, I mean, obviously he knew there was going to be 3 movies, and that was much more set in stone, but when you go from A New Hope to Empire to Return of the Jedi, you don't know exactly,
and it
what's got to carry forward. So
no, it makes sense in that regard, but it does make A New Hope that strange anomaly in the original trilogy.
But it's nice because the stuff leading that gets close to A New Hope, it's nice to see those themes pop up, like Stormtrooper theme you mentioned. Rogue One, and then even in Solo, when the Star Destroyer shows up in the Maw.
Right? That was almost an exact lifting of when the Star Destroyers show up after they fly from Tatooine, and then of course the asteroid field and stuff like that. Another cool thing inside this Imperial base that we see was that there's a clone commando who had the glowing visor and everything, and of course We saw them briefly in Clone Wars during one episode, and that was an Easter egg for Clone Wars. And I think Gregor, it almost seems like he was a clone commando when we see him in Clone Wars, but that was something, of course, that came from Republic Commando, the PC game from 2005. And it's funny, it's one of those Star Wars games I've never played other than sampling briefly.
A lot of people
And
like it. Didn't they? They got re-released this year,
yeah, it
right?
got re-released through GOG recently, and
I think even on the
it's
Switch too, right?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. They're really heavily promoting it, and yeah, I always see it on lists of best Star Wars games, like usually in the top 5, top 10, and that has its really hardcore fans, and it's one of those I mean to delve into at some point, but
Well, we're just too busy playing Super Star Wars for the umpteenth time.
that's right. We are, but at least in that regard, I've not played Super Star Wars in decades,
Right.
very closely. So I've not beat it since the '90s. So that's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a cool Easter egg. Seeing a Clone Commando again. I love any video game references and Easter eggs. Whether it's something from the books or comics, that's cool. But there's something about a video game tie-in specifically that just excites me, especially if it's one from a game from the '90s or 2000s that's a little bit older. So
I can't
now
wait for the Super Bombad racing references. That should be
yeah,
popping
right.
up any day now.
Yeah. Now there's one other thing on this episode, actually right near the beginning, when we see, I guess it was Gregor when he's just before he's captured. There's like a cliff, and he's on a forest planet, which looks like Endor, more or less.
Yeah, I almost thought, I was like, that's weird. Are they on Endor and it like changed the name or something? I mean,
right.
Obviously it's like there's tons of forest planets, but
With pine trees, but it's the pine trees that make it feel like Endor.
yeah.
But here's the funny thing. As he's on the edge of this cliff and he looks behind him, okay, you see pine trees. It's at night. There's like a bright moon, so it's very much feels like Endor, especially like in the Ewok TV movies or whatever, which had more night scenes. But you see like the lights of the troopers that are looking for him, like shining in the distance, like reflecting through the trees. And I was like, is this an ET reference? Because it looked just like when they're chasing after ET, the guys in the trucks and the flashlights.
Yeah, no, I know what you're
and I was like, I think there's at least one shot here that I think is a little ET reference. But then what made me joke about it even more was that to Nicole when we're watching is Gregor puts down that little tracker that's red, and I was like, see, look, it's even like ET's glowing red chest, his little heart thing, so it was like all these little things. And I know it's kind of a stretch, it's not like the THX 1138 stuff in that other episode, but watch it again later when you get a chance or next time you see that episode and call me crazy, but I think we just got an ET Easter egg.
Well, it would have been great if they made that planet the ET planet,
the Asago Bragi or whatever they're called.
Brodo Asagi.
Brodo Asagi
is the planet. Oh yeah, because they're Asogians.
That's right.
Asogians.
That's right. Which was the name of their planet from the ET the Ride, and also the ET the Green Planet novel that came out back in the 80s that tied into the movie.
I wonder how that'd work, because like it would be great if like it's the beginning of the Bad Batch episode and like, oh, Sid wants us to pick up some spice from some planet called Brodo Asagi, and then and then they like go and there's like ETs. But I wonder, obviously when the Phantom Menace came out, Lucasfilm was independent, and he's buddy with Spielberg and stuff, and I'm not really sure who owns the likeness and everything of ET. I don't know if Universal does or if Amblin Entertainment does or if Spielberg himself does, but I wonder if it would even be possible to do that, because Universal, if they're not going to play ball with Disney on anything.
No, they would want to cut. They would at least want to cut.
I'm curious. Now I'm curious who owns ET.
Right. Or would it be like if they do show him or his race in Star Wars, Do they have to change the likeness enough to where it's like almost like another alien, kind of
Oh,
like
like that.
Bothan's?
Yeah, it's a 25% thing that a lot of rights holders do now. With I know Star Trek has that issue.
Yep.
They have to
Yep.
change stuff, so it's at least 25% different to get
Or
around licensing
even
stuff.
like in the old Transformers episodes when they had to make Jetfire not look like a Macross Valkyrie, and
Yeah,
he
exactly.
looked like in the cartoon. And I even remember thinking as a kid, why does Jetfire not look like his toy? You know?
Yeah.
So it's one of those
I don't
interesting
know. Now I got to
things.
research and find out who owns ET and the likeness of the Asogians.
Yes, indeed. Now, it, there was some other interesting stuff with the Kaminoans.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I totally forgot about that angle.
I initially did too, but it's almost like what we thought, where we kind of felt early in the season. We were like, I feel like the Empire is just going to wipe them out or something, like. And now they're getting all their people off the planet. I mean,
We're
there's
trying anyway.
trying to. There's big stuff going on with Camino, where we're finally seeing the fate of Camino.
Mm-hmm.
Because we never knew. Um, and I
Yeah,
guess,
well, something has to happen. I wonder if it'll at least hint at what Dr. Pershing's deal is in
right, in the
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
Because there's always it's kind of like a 3-part bridge, right? There's the the start of the Empire stuff. So there's the Bad
Hmm.
Batch and the Kaminoans there, and then there's the Mandalorian stuff that has at least one small reference to Camino and the Kaminoans
Hmm.
with
And the
Dr.
cloning
Pershing and the cloning and all
things.
that stuff. And then there's the sequel trilogy that has cloning in it, but nothing has come out and even hinted at necessarily that anything before hints at that, right? Like, um,
And to be fair, we've not read the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker or stuff like that, so there could be small things in that you and I don't know about.
that's true. Yeah, I mean,
But I don't.
but I'm
I
not.
think
I'm not.
no, for sure.
I'm not
But
jonesing. I'm not jonesing to read that. And on top of that, I don't even know how canon that would be. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
these
almost like
days,
these days it's like unless Filoni and Favreau's stuff, unless the Bad Batch and Mando lead into that themselves and hint
mhm.
at it themselves, I'm not going to take something that was in the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker as being super canon. But
Yeah,
anyway, so we've got these like different cloning things going on, and none of it's been like super bridged yet. Even the stuff from the Bad Batch hasn't really.
yeah.
It seems like it's going down a road to inform what's going on with cloning in the Mandalorian, but we haven't gotten there yet. So I'm really excited about seeing how that connects, if it does.
Yeah, definitely. Because we got all this stuff with Omega and her DNA and
Mm-hmm.
her being an experiment. And then on top of that, we have Grogu and Dr. Pershing and the experiments he did on him. And he has the Force. So, yeah, this has to go somewhere in either the Bad Batch or the Mandalorian or both. It has to go somewhere.
You know what I want to see? I
Yeah.
want to see, Thrawn. Thrawn comes back, right? And
Yeah.
in the Ahsoka series and stuff. And the poster for the show is going to be Grogu on the cover, his arms up with beams of
Lightning
light.
coming out.
Yeah, beams of light coming out his fingers, and his little cloak is open. He's got that 6-pack, just like
She's got,
Jorah
yeah.
Sabath.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just gonna be the cover. Well, that wasn't the first book, right? That was
No, it was. It
it
was. It was
was
Heir to the Empire.
it was
Yeah.
Heir to the Empire. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's what I want to see. Grogu as Jorah Sabath.
Heir to the Mando
Yeah,
will be the title of the next
that's
season.
the deal. Thrawn uses Grogu to control the clone troops.
I like it, and of course he uses Sparty cloning cylinders, which was
Oh, they
the
got to bring those back. I mean, that could be like, that could be a thing, right?
that totally could be a thing. There's no reason they could not recanonize Sparty cloning cylinders.
In my head canon, that's what Palpatine was using in The Rise of Skywalker. Is
Yeah, I don't.
Sparty cloning.
I don't see why not. And I mean, it all kind of ties right into even Dark Empire also with its cloning and stuff. So
they took the worst parts of Dark Empire.
Yeah, they did, of course.
No, but it's like they didn't. It's like
yeah.
you cherry pick stuff. It's like you cherry pick the good parts. You don't cherry pick
You cherry
the bad
pick
parts.
the Thrawn trilogy, not Dark Empire and Jedi Academy trilogy, but we got what we got. So let's
anyway, so
love it.
I'm super excited to see where the whole cloning and the fate of the cameos leads. So
absolutely. And besides that, it was just a great episode of the chases and the old V-wings, the old version of the V-wing attacking the Bad Batch ship, and then of course Hunter is seemingly captured, and it'll be great. We got 2 more episodes this season, and I don't know if they're going to do a 2-parter. It's not announced yet whether they're going to be just by themselves or a 2-parter, but it's exciting. And this show has been a really great, fun surprise in a lot of ways. I mean, we basically got a continuation of Clone Wars, more or less. And I was hoping to see more of the Bad Batch characters in some form. So yeah, this has been really fun so far. We'll be looking forward to the next episode next week, whatever the title may be.
Hunter in trouble or something.
Maybe it'll be like Rambo, where he's fighting the police in the woods.
Too bad Brian Denny, he's dead. He could have voiced.
Yeah, I know.
He could have voiced the Imperial.
I know.
The Stormtrooper TK-001. He could have been the original TK. Oh my dude. Can you imagine? I mean, they should pay us. We should just write this stuff.
I know.
Continual references is like, oh, you want to reference Rambo with his like headband and stuff? Oh no, we're gonna take this. We're gonna take this all the way.
Give him a speeder bike or like riding through town.
TK TK-001 is Brian Dennehy, and TK-002 is what's that actor?
The guy with the mustache.
No, the redhead actor. He's like a legit actor. He's in a bunch of TV stuff, and he's in that. Was it CSI Miami or something? Oh, I can't remember his name.
No.
Whatever. I keep wanting to say Danny Bonaducci, but it's 100. Right. It's 100% not David.
Yeah. It's that guy though that he has a similar aesthetic.
Yeah, well, he's a redhead. That's the similar aesthetic.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, that's not happening.
And on that note, that about wraps it up for this episode. We hope everybody enjoyed it. Be sure to check us out on, of course, the YouTube channel, Star Wars Unfiltered, where this will be posted, along with our lore play commentaries and some other cool things. Check us out on Facebook, Star Wars Unfiltered page. We are also on Instagram. Just look us up. We post almost every day or so, or every few days. And then any questions or comments, we are at StarWarsUnfiltered@yahoo.com. And until the next episode, everyone take care, and may the Force be with you.
Good night.
What?